off the bottom of my screen. I have to tell you these nice things about Hafez. So his dedication to pedestrian safety extends beyond professional responsibility, rooted in personal experience of surviving 2 pedestrian crashes in his childhood. Over a career spanning more than 2 decades, Hafez has significantly influenced the field of road safety and active transport, culminating in substantial contributions to the Victorian Government's Towards Zero strategy and action plan. One of Hafez's noteworthy accomplishments was his involvement in Victoria's largest pedestrian and cyclist safety infrastructure program, over $100 million of investment. In this comprehensive initiative, he was instrumental in planning, designing, delivering, and evaluating an array of pedestrian safety measures with a strong emphasis on crossing facilities such as wombat crossings, effectively enhancing pedestrian priority and overall safety. Currently, the Transport Lead at HA Consulting, Hafez partners with a wide variety of organisations both in Australia and internationally, constantly pushing the boundaries in road safety and sustainable mobility. His academic credentials are underpinned by a PhD from Monash University, where he conducted in-depth research into pedestrian safety and injury prevention. In this Why module today, Hafez will leverage his diverse experience and knowledge, underscoring the significance of raised crossings through a strategic lens. Welcome, Hafez. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Bridge. I could have listened to that for ages. Thank you. No, can you see my screen properly here?
Yeah.
Awesome. So, like the bottom line of the talk and like chat with you today is about a strategic approach to pedestrian safety. So this course, of course, focuses on race crossings, but this is more than that. So in this first bit, we're going to tell you the whole big picture, how to establish big programs, how to look at the whole system, and then find the best ways to plan your pedestrian crossings. So I'm going to set in the scene today, and then we're going to go deeper and deeper and deeper through this course for you to get all the details. But at any time, you can come back to this big helicopter picture, if you will. So today about is like high level looking at the whole network, and this is about understanding how to strategically develop plans and programs for pedestrian safety, specifically for race crossings. However, why we're doing that? My experience in the field for around 20 years tells me that every time that we look big, we try to go area-wide mass action, we are more successful. We cover more grounds, more bases, and we cater for more people. There are several reasons that I advocate for mass action, which I encourage you to do as well. And these reasons are: first, area-wide pedestrian solutions are more pedestrian friendly. Pedestrians go area-wide. We just find the way from origin to destination. We just don't follow routes. We are very versatile. So area-wide is solution, and we need to cater for that. Also, when you cover an area, you're more likely to be cost effective and to be able to justify your interventions financially. In terms of safety compliance, we know that crashes are random. No matter how much you study risk, understand risk, there will be areas that you will forget. So if you cover an area, you're more likely to cover a higher number of risky locations. So that's another potential safety benefit of area-wide and mass action. In terms of developing business cases, more and more in this society, we're vying for money. We don't have like infinite amount of money. We vie for money for different societal needs. So we need to justify and have a good business case, and mass action give us good business case. It is also more inclusive and cohesive. So when we think about neighborhoods, areas, urban areas, covering a whole area with mass action covers more groups and more groups in the society. And finally, if you cover an area, you're more likely to create better life quality, potentially save emissions and create like a better environment, climate actions, and you might be cover other societal concerns in your area by doing area-wide interventions. So when you're developing solutions, think mass action area-wide. But now let's go a little bit deeper. In this module, I'm going to talk about why walking is important. We all know that, but we're going to go a little bit more methodical about this, have like categories about why walking is important. Then I will introduce a strategic lens that we have developed specifically for this course and to teach you, and we have been trialing it in mass programs across Victoria and other places. Then we were talking about strategic metrics and how to calculate them, how to use them in your business cases. And finally, I'm going to throw all the tools out and go really just simple and use my brain and my hands as a strategic planner and tell you how you can do the job without any of those tools. Of course, if you have tools, you're going to do a better job, but we go very simple to include everyone. So walking is important. Why? Variety of reasons. It's because of the economy of walking, because of the impact on environment, because its impact on health, societal impacts, and also impact on our transport system. Let me give you a few examples, and then we will have an exercise. So if you have an area that is more walkable, it is likely that you're going to impact the business and the economy of the area. It might help you to lower some of the societal costs due to a variety of reasons. One of them is transport, one of them is health, one of them is like, including people and having lower sort of, impact on people's health and mental well-being. In terms of environment, we know that active travel is very aligned with climate action. It's both about air quality, less noise, quality of life, and having more sustainable environments and urban areas. In terms of health, increased physical health and lower diseases is one of the impacts, but also think about, as I will discuss on the transport, is about injuries as well. In terms of society, more walking means more interactions. We had, there's this professor of cycling from the Netherlands, Marco, I cannot pronounce the surname. He was here. What's the name? What's the surname?
Le Brummelstrit, I'll find him.
Yes.
Something like that.
he was here in Australia, and he was talking about how having environments that are human-based are more likely to encourage us to interact. We're going to make errors, but that's okay. That's a part of our social life. So it's very important for us to have environments that are, so when we say the arterial network, we're using a bodily definition and name for streets that are filled with cars. So that doesn't make sense. Remove the cars, add active travel. And so did you find it, Bridget?
Yeah. Yeah. Marco to Brummelstrit. I'm putting a link in the chat for everyone.
Beautiful. He's very exciting, and he's got very grounded arguments that come back from like 1920s Europe or then later 1970s Europe. So you can see the genealogy of his thinking. Excuse me. In terms of transport, what we see is mode shift and also less deaths and serious injury. What does it mean? I will be discussing as a part of the training today how you can induce walking, how you can induce active travel. But when you do that, what it means that people are taken away from private vehicle to public transport and active travel. And we know that active travel and public transport are the best friends. We've seen that in many European cities. We are trying to do it here as well. Also, by doing better pedestrian safety, of course, we have less injuries, less deaths. And when we have less injury and deaths, it means that parents are more likely to allow their children to come out. We allow ourselves to come out more. So all those follow-on effects. Now, I just want to sort of have the first action plan, action learning here by asking you, tell me other reasons that you think walking is important. In the chat room, please.
Here we go. So people are suggesting walking is good for the body and mind. It's carbon free. Well, apart from the human, but we're just eventual compost, aren't we, Hafiz? Walking's good for us. start and end of almost every journey. That's true, even if you're just walking into your garage.
Yeah.
Better sensory experience. Oh, that's a good one. I like that because it's not just about what you can see. And when you're in a car or in a vehicle, your senses are limited and you're insulated from the world. But when you go out and about, you can encounter people. Good for your mental health. I've seen research about that, that even smiling at someone you don't know on the street is something that's good for you and something you're less likely to do in a car. We do other things to strangers in cars when we're driving that aren't usually smiling.
Exactly. Unfortunately.
Oh, this is great. Connected to surroundings, mental health, sense of community, mindfulness, resilience. Oh, this is a deep thinking group, Fez.
Mm-hmm.
Going to have to be on top of our game. You might
Oh.
meet a dog. Exactly. You might meet a dog.
Yes. So this is interesting because one of the things that we
Okay.
like to do in this session is let me increase the size, sort of doing thematic analysis. So some of these are internal impacts, some of them are societal impacts, some of them are interaction between us and our society, both physical and human. So we see that walking has all this. So I added a few here as well, and I'm gonna just this also. I said property value here because sometimes we need to convince, politicians and our sort of business cases. We talked about inclusivity and diversity, more art, more artistic. We talked about mindfulness here and the impact on mind, and also we could have more events and activities if we have environment that are open for walking. Bridge here will be talking more about diversity and inclusiveness in her module, and I really love that module. Just like this is one of the modules that actually opened my eyes into a number of areas that I had never thought about it deeply as Bridge has thought about it. So, okay, so now we want to jump to the Miro for our first serious exercise. So for doing that, Bridge, maybe we can share. Oh, yes, already. So we have the link to Miro here. And if you could please jump to Miro and I will guide you where you want to meet me on Miro board. Cool. So let me share my Miro board here. Excellent. Do this. Excellent. So you will meet me here on Action Learning 2. What stops you or your loved ones from walking?
So just for people who might not have used Miro before, if you right click, then you can move around the Miro board. You can click join presentation if that pops up for you as well. Might just be me. And Hafez has done magic things which make us join him in this Action Learning 2 area. Feel free to ask in the chat if you're getting confused about Miro, but the main thing is right click to move around, and you can zoom in and out either with the scroll button on your mouse, or I think there are zoom in and out buttons on there.
And I think on the left-hand side is a toolbox of a variety of ways that you can communicate with us, like from notes, from shapes, from images, from emojis. Yeah, fantastic. People are starting using them.
Yeah. So what we're doing here, we're going to explain this activity, Hafez?
Sure. So now for this activity, I want you to imagine that you yourself have this desire or intention to walk, but there are blockers on your way. So you don't walk for what reason? Or you have children in your household and you don't allow them to walk, or you find it's risky or whatever for them to walk. What stops you to encourage your children to walk or encourage your loved ones, your elderly parents or other people? Tell me some of the reasons here that you don't walk. So, Bridge, we're just looking to allow them to sort of, put a few things, and then we're going to do a quick thematic analysis and see what comes out.
It's interesting. I always think about the overlap between personal circumstances and your life experience and the infrastructure that's immediately outside your door and between where you are and where you want to go, and then all the decisions that city planners and transport people have made over the decades that have created that environment, and also society's expectations on us. Like sometimes I think I bike down to the local shops and carry a helmet, people look at you funny, like
yeah.
But the more that people do that, then the more it becomes normal.
So this is fantastic. So now, as you're putting your ideas in, I want us to do something. I identify at least 4 themes here. So if you have spoken about safety or security, or your comment is related to safety or security, please drag your comment to this area on the left top corner. Yeah. Beautiful. If your comment is about the insufficiencies of the transport system or the facilities or amenities that it doesn't provide to you, bring it to the top right corner. So safety and security, top left, transport insufficiency, transport system insufficiency, top right. Then we have several personal reasons here. So if you could bring them to our left, bottom left. Okay. And then we see what is left is mainly environmental. Okay, so 3 main themes of Bridge come through very sharply. And I would say bad severe weather is something that is environmental. We can imagine that can be both personal or transport system. For example, I've got Dutch friends that they walk and cycle in any environment, any rain or not rain. That is something culture, training. But also we have environment that if it's sunny or rainy, there is no way for us to hide or stay. So that's a insufficiency of the transport system. So you see the combination of these factors. Now,
yeah. And the land use decisions mean that we can't get there very quickly. So for those of us who are saying, well, I don't have time, it's because the shops are 20 minutes or 30 minutes walk away and not 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So it's not all on us as individuals to feel lazy about that. It's the system that has been designed around us.
You're 100%. There is a comment here that says industrial, like, it's unpleasant to work in industrial areas. And the question is, why we have residential in industrial areas? Like, that's a potentially failure of our land use system. And we have movement and place function, or we have similar situations or framework across the world that allow us to design towns and urban areas that are more friendly for active travel. So that's one of the learnings. So let me quickly summarize here. We are usually as ourselves blocked from walking by safety and security, by personal reasons, and by the insufficiencies of the transport system. We would call it road, land use, and transport system, so it has all the elements. You see that there are interaction between all of these, and you need to understand them. So why we do this exercise? Because sometimes when we're developing, devising surveys to get into the core of your community's wants, understanding all these will help you to sort of really tap into them, bring those voices out, and make them heard by politicians, decision makers. Cool. Let's go back to the presentation, and we have more exercises coming. Let me share my slides here. So I want to share with you today a case, a real life case that we analyzed in 2013 in response to the Victorian government's inquiry into serious injury. So the purpose of the inquiry was understanding what serious injury is, and this pedestrian case blew my mind. I'm sharing that with you today. So Alex, at the time that we were having this the analysis, he was a 32-year-old man, very happy, very upbeat, fit, social. Based on the interviews we had done after the crash, we identified that he was married with 2 kids, employed people, owned a business, a bricklaying business, employed a few people, had hobbies of taking his boat out to the lake. And his only self-confessed vice was smoking weed. So I would say a very good life he had. On the tragic evening of the crash, so he was walking the family dog out in the neighborhood. It was a 40K. The car was driving at 50K, hit Alex at the intersection at the 10 kilometer, above the speed limit, killed the dog. And at the crash scene, Alex had injury to his head, contusion, concussion, broken arm, dislocated, let me remember, so broken femur, dislocation of elbow, broken ribs, laceration, bleeding. So anyway, when we did analysis of his injury at the hospital afterwards, he had 50% chance of dying at the crash scene. Toss of a coin, Alex could have died. He spent 42 days in hospital and then inpatient hospital, in total 3 surgeries and all that. So at the time we were checking what happens to a person after a crash in terms of bringing their life back on track. So 6 months time, we go to Alex and say, how are you going, Alex? Alex says, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I have continuous pains, limited activity, I have stopped working, and my physical and emotional situation is not the best. In 12 months, as you see here, it was totally different story. Alex had suicidal thoughts on a regular basis. He was feeling disabled. Physical manifestation was limping. He had lost business, took up gambling. His marriage had ended, and he had continued pain and suffering on a daily basis. So our role in the society is actually not stopping. We need to help people like Alex to come back, to bring their life back on track as much as they can. But we are here to prevent them initially. Okay, so we will be talking about the safe system principles in this course a number of times. So what is the safe system? Many of you are familiar. I know some of your names here, and I know that you are really good practitioners of the safe system. Just a reminder that safe system approach to safety is about understanding human vulnerability. There is so much force our bodies of bone and flesh can tolerate before we break, and we break sometimes for good. We need to understand that human life and health should be prioritized. We talked about all the different benefits of the transport system, like time, like mobility, but safety is a must. You first cater for safety and then cater for other aspects of the system. Human beings make mistakes. We need to understand that no matter how much you try, how hard, and Bridge will be exploring this area in depth. We have mind wandering, we have internal distraction. You cannot eliminate error, but you can potentially eliminate the consequences of people making genuine mistakes. And finally, it's about shared responsibility. For decades, we banged on people's head that you are bloody idiots. You make mistakes. I'm very sorry to repeat this, but we have called people stupid. That hasn't worked. We have seen across many road safety advanced countries that doing that is not helpful. It's actually not solid. We need to take responsibility, and those responsibilities should be shared by road authorities mainly. Now, we will be discussing about this in more depth in the WHERE module as well. Now, a few definitions for us to be on the same page before we go to the strategic aspects of the work. So when we talk about race crossing in this course, we're talking about an elevated zebra that is shared, can be a shared pass or a bicycle priority crossing. It covers the entire road. It's designed to be accessible for all and is supported by signing, road marking, lighting, landscaping, and a variety of things. And also the characteristics is about improving safety, improving pedestrian mobility. It creates better walking environment, and it can be quite cost effective because we don't stop the traffic if we don't have to, and it can work with several other solutions like roundabouts. In the how part of this course, we will be giving you way more details about how to design them. So bear with me today. We talk about the strategy today. We're going to be reaching that point that you will be understanding all the details design of race crossings. Now, a fun question for you. We are all from different jurisdictions, different fields, different disciplines. What do you call this solution on the road? Put it please in the chat room. What do you call this? A zebra? Okay. Format crossing, the crossing. Yeah, I think we are on the same page. So for consistency of terminology, we call them this course race pedestrian crossings or race crossings to include cyclists as well. So, and now that we have this sort of consistency, that's great. So we will be talking in the how module, what are the key sort of descriptions of these and what are the key elements for them to be called a race crossing. Now, a fun quiz, and this is for our first prize. So the question is, if we design a race crossing properly with all the key elements, what is the impact on pedestrian fatal and serious injuries in terms of reduction? Do they reduce pedestrian fatal and serious injury by 20% or 40% or 70% or 95%?
You type your answer in the chat, people, because you can actually get a prize. Whoa, you're very quick.
Amanda, you killed it. I mean, so many people killed it already.
Maybe use a different metaphor, Hafiz.
You aced it. You aced it. So I think let's
smoked it.
Oh, this is phenomenal. We have almost 99% accuracy here.
Well, that's a good question, Hilary. Compared to what? Compared to no crossing, isn't it?
Yes. And Amanda says, "Oh, I certainly don't want to kill." Amanda, my bad. I apologize. This is language. Okay. So 70%. That's very good. So the point of this slide is for you to remember they are not silver bullet solutions. They are very good solutions. Hence, you need to think about the whole area, not just one location. Hence, you need to think about some complementary solutions like 30 km/h zones. Also, thinking about how your vehicles and technology can be smarter. In essence, what I'm saying here is this is about the system. One solution doesn't solve the problem, but it might go a long way. So, Paul, there is a research behind this, and we have put it in the material of the course. You can find the research there. If you couldn't find, please reach out to myself or Bridge or Loretta, and we share the research with you. Cool. Now, this is maybe the most important message from me today. So imagine that you're a strategic planner. Many of us have been strategic planners in local government or in state government, federal. Many of us potentially have studied transport planning. I did transport planning. So today, I just used some of our knowledge in transport planning and translated them for pedestrian crossings. what does it mean for pedestrian crossing development? So if I think about three key strategic elements for developing a race crossing program and plans, and I have used this method in some of the programs I have done for the Victorian government, both in government and out of government. So first, we need to understand road and street function, one very important element. The other one is about active traveler connection. Many of you actually mentioned this comment in your blocker assessment when you talked about distance or accessibility is not there, so I'm not connected, or pedestrian safety risk. So strategically, three elements are very important. What is your road system? What is the characteristics, function, if you will? What is the origin and destination of your trips and how they're connected to the origin and destination and other modes of transport, and pedestrian safety risk. So let's go a bit deeper. So in terms of like really quick description, when we say it's about road and street function, it's about which road and street type is more suitable for race crossings. Or another way we have looked at this statement is about how we can make an environment suitable for installation of race crossings. Because sometimes the environment is really already amenable to race crossings. Sometimes it is not, and you need to do some interventions to bring down the speed, to maybe narrow the road, maybe do things to be able to put the race crossing there to have the most effectiveness. So this is about understanding the first element about road and street stereotypes, if you will. Again, many of us are familiar with road and street design manuals, movement and place function, and I will be talking about them very shortly. In terms of active traveler connection, it's about us understanding where is demand, what is the origin and destination of current and latent pedestrian trips. So this latent is very crucial for us to understand here. We usually, because we don't have data, we base our decisions based on what we see, what we count. That is great, but that is not enough because we have latent demand. I have a proof for you. 10 minutes ago, you told me around 50 reasons why you don't walk. That's latent demand. Now, and the last one is about pedestrian safety risk. I have put some maps for you here. It's about us understanding where the risk or risk for trauma is and understand how we can use solutions to address them. Again, in this area, these dots are all existing or history of trauma. In the field of road safety, we are using history and other elements to be proactive. So we don't mainly or solely rely on history of trauma. We try to understand what is the risk. It is a bit similar to the latent demand for pedestrian demand, something that is not happening, that is not occurring now, but will happen in future. We want to predict it. We don't want to wait for a pedestrian to be killed for us to put it in a platform. That's what I'm saying. Now, let's go a little bit deeper here. So one of the main tools we have in terms of understanding road and street function is movement and place. We are familiar with that, but really quickly, it's about understanding what the interaction between the place function and movement function is. So place function is about us getting by with our lives, accessing the shop, go to school, go to work, go for a coffee, go for sojourning in a sort of promenade or on a bench, chatting with a friend, living our lives, place. Movement is about when we need to go from A to B, when we commute to work, when we are going on a date and we need to be there on time. So when we have to move, or when we have large freight vehicles that need to go from this state to the other state in a timely manner for productivity reasons, so movement functions. The combination of these compels where we can put race crossings. We will have an exercise on that, so we will come back to that. In terms of active traveler connection, we have developed sometimes pedestrian demand or principal pedestrian networks, if you PPNs. So the concept is we try to look at an urban area and understand where the majority of our current and forecast pedestrian trips may go. That allows us to understand which part of the system is more likely to have a larger number of pedestrians, so we design for them. But also, having a look at these maps, it will tell me which part of the system has pedestrian demand, but we might not be able to put something there. So maybe it might create some problem, security problem. I think I don't want to go like analytical here, but imagine that when you look at this map, you can dissect the map based on age. For example, understand where children are traveling across the system and they have different needs. When adults are going, so you can dissect these maps to actually understand your pedestrian population and cater for them. And finally, road trauma maps. Of course, we have seen all of these, and I will be in the next few slides really talk about what it means to do risk analysis. What is pedestrian safety risk analysis and what options we have. So let me focus on pedestrian network and understanding pedestrian demand a bit more before we jump to road safety. Okay. I acknowledge the TMR from Queensland for the great job they did to identify and document forecasting, demand forecasting for pedestrian tools. They have identified 6 ways that you can forecast pedestrian demand. And these are comparison studies, sketch planning, direct demand models, spatial analysis, discrete choice, and network models. So I will describe to you, but some of these are quite related. So discrete choice and network model are potentially in the same family. Demand models and spatial models are potentially in the same family, related to sketch planning, a bit more advanced, of course, and comparison is the simplest way we have. Today, I'm going to use an example for comparison studies, but before that, let me talk about these methods separately and their pros and cons. So when you use counts from similar locations to your study location to understand the demand for pedestrians, that's called comparison study. Maybe you are developing a new retirement village in your local government area, and you don't have money to collect data. You just look at a current retirement village and look at demand there, and you use those facts and figures. Maybe you factor them with the population or the area, but very, very, very simple. Sketch planning is basically having the spreadsheets that we use data about origin and destination and some other factors about land use. We can use land use in terms of space or population, and we use these facts and figures to predict or forecast the demand for pedestrians. For example, like I can share that in my PhD, I used significant land use data to predict pedestrian crossing across the CBD of Melbourne. So for each mid-block and intersections, I use those information to understand how many people cross the road. With direct demand, it's about using regression models based on the characteristics of the land use and road and transport system. By road and transport system, we mean number of lane, number of like AADT, vehicular traffic, and other factors. For example, if you have a main railway station, that's a massive contributor to pedestrian demand. A spatial analysis is using similar modeling techniques, but using them in geospatial platforms and using geospatial variables to run these models. So some of us today here are really familiar with modeling. I want to mention some of our friends from NRTO and other people. So you are familiar with this model, and it's great to have you here. So these models are about probabilistic look at pedestrian movement and demand, and these are very accurate but very data hungry. So let me give you pros and cons. The first 2-3 models potentially are having accuracy problem. They are not as accurate. Sometimes maybe they are 60 or 70% accurate or less. But when you go to really in-depth models, you get higher accuracy, but they certainly demand budget to collect data, do the modeling, do the testing, do the validation, sometimes calibration, and all those have costs. So you need to find this, model for your purposes. I want to really quickly talk about our comparison studies. And comparison studies, as I mentioned, are the simplest way of forecasting demand. Let me describe it and I'll then give you an example. So you want to do comparison. So what you do, you go out at your study site and you collect pedestrian data. And then you try to understand, if you put in a solution like a raised crossing, what the impact is on the induced demand. For example, you would say, oh, if I put a raised crossing, maybe 10% of people who at the moment are taking their car might be likely to take walking instead. So that's sort of no, sorry, my bad. So that's mode shift. So mode shift is when we go from other modes to walking for a solution that we have put on the road. Induced demand is a person who wouldn't have used walking or just like travel in that area, but now travels because that is there. So by knowing the current counts and then developing a factor to factor that initial figure based on some of those understanding which we get from comparison sites, we increase the numbers to a forecast demand. So I want to quickly go through the figures because of the time here. So this example is about, consider we have a new race crossing at a mid-block location. We did pre-construction pedestrian counts for 2 weekdays and 1 weekend to understand, the different patterns. Also, we know that the area is a suburban residential area with mixed-use developments, and the average daily demand that we have calculated based on counts or the DIDT is 80 pedestrians a day. Now, we understand based on our previous studies or comparison studies that of this demand, around 70% is working for recreation, 20 or 30% is for transport, commute, going to businesses, going to shops purposes. Now, again, using the comparison studies or studies that we have done previously, we understand that the induced factor and the mode shift factor add up to 1.48 multiplication factor, which means that we can expect that your initial count, if you put such and such solution, will be increased by 1.48, which means that potentially we're looking at 120 pedestrians after the installation of your solution. And you might be asking, we know the reason, but that 40 extra pedestrians is what we can use for justification of cost, because then it will have several objectives in your potentially local government or state government. So these facts and figures are very important. So comparison studies, the most simple way, the simplest way, and then this is one example, but there are more ways. If you want to understand and analyze these models a bit more, we have put the document from the TMR in your material. Have a look at them. If you have any questions, please email me. I can actually connect you to the researcher and the public servant who is behind these for you to get really good understanding of how to use them. Now, Pedestrian risk assessment, this is an area that I'm really interested. So I try to curtail my enthusiasm here, but really roughly, when we talk about risk assessment, the worst case is understanding the heat map of existing road trauma history. So at the moment, many states and jurisdictions across Australia and New Zealand have open data about crashes, about fatal and serious injuries. You can download them in shapefile and see them in potentially online available geospatial tool. And you also can provide heat maps, which tells you where are the concentration of your crashes or fatal and serious injuries. This is the minimum we can do. However, we can actually develop predictive tools or probabilistic tools to understand risk, very similar to pedestrian demand forecast models. We can go from very simple to very advanced, and based on your needs, you can rely on them. I have good news for you. For example, in the state of Victoria, the state government is actually developing tools that can be potentially accessed by everyone for them to understand and forecast risk across their networks. This is a long way for us to have a very complete and accurate model, but we have started the journey. Now, this is a bit of extra information because I know some of you might be interested, so bear with me. I tell you what are the different methods we have for pedestrian risk assessment. They can be perception-based or crash history-based, as I described. Let me double click on perception because that's another area that I have realized many of my colleagues in local government are using them, or some other areas. So we can use the insight of the community through community-led design or community-led risk assessment by simply going to the community, developing surveys, and ask them to put on map areas that they think are high risk. For you to better understand this, if you have not done this, Pru has designed a similar exercise that I will be introducing at the end of this module. So you can actually go there and do the same and see how you can tap into the knowledge of your community. Also, we have currently methods like level of traffic stress that is developed for cyclists. That's about gauging how your cyclist feels riding in an environment and use that as a measure of identifying high risk areas in your network. Then you have a number of mid-range models. We have ANRAM, IRAP. I will be talking about IRAP, and then you have really in-depth safety science models or Bayesian models. So if you want to know about these more specifically, please reach out to me and I will provide you with the information. So I won't bore you here, but if you want to know more, please reach out to me. Now, let me quickly go. Sorry, I need to tell this as well. This is interesting. So in an analysis I did, we understood that these methods are not really statistically robust. These methods are, but that's an extra information. So let me quickly check my time. I'm going to talk about IRAP because this is a tool that is becoming more and more commonplace in road safety and in the state government to provide advice. So IRAP is an international program, and then we have OSRAP and KiwiRAP. It's about elimination of high-risk section of the road and providing a consistent risk rating across the network. I'm pretty sure many of you are familiar with this. So IRAP works based on modeling. We are collecting significant amount of data on different segments of a road. We have actually vehicles that are equipped for video recording, and then we have ways that we can use those video recording to identify all those key factors around the road and in the road, and use that as a model to forecast risk. So again, a really predictive regression models that we develop, and we have developed them for pedestrians. So for pedestrians, IRAP suggests like a number of different definitions for different star rating for pedestrian safety. For example, they have identified if you have no sidewalks, no safe crossing, and 60K, it's actually really bad. But if you have sidewalk present, signalized crossing with refuge, and a street light, 40 kilometers per hour, is 5-star. I personally don't agree with IRAP assessment here, but that's my personal view. I think we need to go a little bit more than this to be 5-star, but you get the big picture. Now, before I have a quick pause for a quick break, I want to summarize our findings for the first part of the session and give you very practical advice. You might say, Hafez, all good, all great models, I don't have access to them. What should I do? So I assume that, we just don't have access to any of those tools, which if you have, they would help you. But if you don't, in terms of movement and place, try to survey your community's activities and detect high activity areas, zones, and streets. Focus on narrower, lower speed, less traffic, and more activity areas. Avoid high speed, or if you have to reduce the speed momentarily, ad hoc, and make the road narrower, then you can do 60K as well. So this is about movement and place. If you have more information, fantastic. In terms of network or demand, again, you need to have a look at your origin and destination of your pedestrian trips, which is mainly about where your residential, educational, commercial, health, and tourist attractions are. You can count pedestrians, or as we said, use guesswork or comparison studies at the very minimum, and then identify walking attraction zones. Again, for both of these, you can tap into the knowledge of your community. Or many of us have worked in our areas for 20 years, 15 years. That subject matter expertise is also very important. In terms of risk of trauma, you can collect all the crash reports and statistics. More and more these data are available, so use them. You can collect data on speed, vehicle traffic, pedestrian demand. Again, more and more we have data on these, you can use them, and based on these, you can identify risk. Now, Bridge, over to you for a 5-minute break before we come back.
That's perfect. Thanks so much, Hafez. Right, everybody, we're going to start again on the hour, which is 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock, depending on your time zone, or just 5 minutes from now. If you are curious or have questions in the meantime, feel free to put them in the chat. But for now, you've got 5 minutes to go and do what you need to do, and we'll see you back here shortly. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We've got about a minute to go before we get back into it. Whenever you're ready, Hafez, we can get started. Welcome back, everyone.
Thank you. So just a quick reminder why we encourage mass action. It's because of area-wide solutions are better, they're more safe system compliant, they help you with business planning, business action planning, and justifying the cost effectiveness of your interventions or projects. They're more likely to be inclusive and cohesive of a variety of societal group needs that you have. Also, they're more likely to be aligned with other sustainable development goals. I just really encourage the crew here to have a read of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, developed by UN. and they just really point out to several areas that we can tap into. One observations that we have been having in the field of road safety is unless we marry up safety and quality of life and climate action, we cannot get through and deliver the message and also convince our politicians and decision makers. So we need to consider them when you, for example, race crossing initially might be for safety or accessibility, but it has several other impacts that you need to consider. So you all know that, just a gentle reminder. Okay, so I want to talk about, in this case, about strategic metrics that you can use in your business cases. I'm going to share a couple of business cases or information tools that we have seen in Europe and in Australia and New Zealand, and tell you how you can use them in your own projects. So when we say we need to have these strategic metrics, the main reason is developing a sort of value-based approach or demonstrating the value of your investments. Also, you can develop, better business cases and show cost effectiveness. But I have a caveat here to raise with you. Sometimes, potentially because we have not been able to really assess the demand for active travel accurately or quantify the benefits of active travel fully, then when we develop a business case for active travel, it doesn't show the BCR, if you will, the benefits cost ratio or economic value, and that can be a risk. For some of these interventions, we should actually do them without thinking about the business case or the economic benefit, because we cannot fully capture that at the moment. So remember that, but I certainly show you how you can do that if you have to, but be vocal. Be vocal about that fact that, we cannot fully understand that. So maybe we need to be principle-based in some cases. Also, the other reason that we need some of these strategic metrics is, I share an example with you. In Victoria, as Bridge mentioned, we had around $100 million investment allocated to our pedestrian cyclist projects. We had to identify these projects and prioritize them, because we had several projects and we wanted to know which projects will deliver more for us for the money we had. So we actually had those strategic metrics to be able to prioritize active travel projects against each other. And also, it's about monitoring and evaluation. Again, some of you are really familiar with monitoring and evaluation here. We need that because it's about, sometimes we need to show and demonstrate the value and the benefit. And sometimes, as Karen here asked me, where do you get these factors from? We need to do those evaluations and monitoring to understand some of these information to use them in future studies. So these are some of the reasons that we need those strategic metrics. Now, let me share a case that we understood happened in the UK about creating an economic case for active travel action. And what they did, they identified and quantified several areas and metrics related to active travel. So, and then they did an analysis of the costs and benefits, and they monetized them. The report is available if you want it. I have put it in the material, but you can also reach out to me and I can introduce you to the people behind them. So they identified noise, air quality, greenhouse gases, as you mentioned in your comments, journey quality, physical activity, crashes, accidents, economic efficiency or decongestion, the congestion, wider public finances, also some other like economic factors. So they use these factors to come up with a BCR, a benefits cost ratio for active travel. So they came with a figure of 5.5, which means that for every dollar you spend in active travel, you're gonna get $5.5 back. I argue that that is more than that, but it is a really good first steps. So these are some of the variables and metrics that we really sort of encourage you to understand and just like use in your projects. And this case is a very good case for you to replicate and learn from, and maybe you can even contact these people to learn more from them. So in terms of some of the other factors that are not yet monetized, and the list is bottomless. So there are many factors like growth in businesses, increase in property values, the cost that changes in a household and in the transport system in terms of maintenance, new roads, infrastructure investment, mental health, as many of you mentioned in the first exercise, social cohesion and inclusion. So we have several other factors that active travel impacts and benefits and improves that we haven't yet monetized. So one of the ways that we have been trying to address this is developing evaluation projects that are more than just looking at the number of crashes and the number of pedestrians. We look at several other factors and try to understand them and see how they have improved. A simple way, so it's not all about complex fancy models and tools. A simple way would be surveys of your community. And surveys are good because they are taking attention away from the squeaky wheels. Because we have squeaky wheels, all of us are familiar with them. Sometimes 80% of the community is the quiet happy. So you need to have surveys to show that you're politicians, decision makers. Okay, now Auckland did a fantastic job with an infographic. I really, really love this because this is very simple but very informative. So what they did, they said, okay, what is the benefit of investment in cycling? And they identified several areas in terms of benefits: increased space, less pollution, fewer injuries, fewer health costs, and fewer household costs, and actually put facts and figures around them. I really love this because, for example, look at the fewer injuries. They say a 10 to 20% reduction in cycling related incidents would correspond with 40 to 80 fewer serious injuries and 1 to 2 less deaths over 10 years. And what I usually do, if you remember, I talked to you about Alex. We need to, when we say 4 to 80 serious injuries, maybe add words like less serious injuries like acute brain injury or quadriplegia or paraplegia. Like make it more palpable. Okay, so increase the space. Again, this is one of the really famous arguments that Marco, the Dutch cycling professor, says. Less pollution. So develop infographics, which brings me to another point. And this is about comms and engagement, communication and engagement, and how it is important in the success of our active travel projects. I have a quick digression here to share an experience with you from Victoria, where we did the IMCIP, the Inner Melbourne Cycling Investment Program, which is about pop-up cycle lanes in response to COVID. We did 5 suburbs of Melbourne, and we developed around 100 kilometers of pop-up cycle lanes. In some suburbs, we really didn't do the proper communication and engagement with the community, with the councils, with the councillors. We could do it. I mean, we did a job, but we didn't do the potentially best job, room for improvement. And in those suburbs, some of our works were stopped or reinstated. So it's very important, even if you have the best solution, the best message, the best evidence, sometimes that is not enough. Usually it's not enough. People need more than that. Okay, so let's jump to Menti for another series of exercises. And I'm going to close the day today with a number of exercises. I want you to use what you have heard today. So let me stop sharing and jump to Menti.
Miro, you mean, Hafiz? Too many tools.
Yes, Mira. Okay. Thank you, Bridge. Oh
Gotta
my
watch it.
God.
I'll compost you early if you keep up. But
Oh, Bridge, thank
everybody's
you.
back in Mira. They know what they're up to. They're a smart group.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Thank you, Bridge. It's great to have you. I really enjoy you. Thank you. So, what is your case? This is about us understanding and learning about you. We have, after this module, 3 modules left, and we can actually think and tailor our wording and our presentation to you. So in this exercise, tell us who you are, what programs, projects, investment, business cases, advocacies you work on, and why you're here, so we can actually learn from your experience and provide better to you. So put there who you are, what you do, and why you're here, essentially.
So everyone grab a sticky note from the left-hand menu and just put something about why you're here. If you finish that and you're really onto it, you could add some stickers or emojis to your post-it note if you feel like it. Start with the sticky note, and then if you're interested in doing more, click on the plus symbol underneath the pen on the menu. You'll see more apps. There's stickers and emojis in there, but that's not compulsory. Start with your sticky note, see how you get on.
Yes. And maybe I can gently ask Loretta at some stage if you could take some screenshots of these activities. I usually really enjoy them, and we can share them in our social media about how engaging Miro is. Not Menti, Miro.
Really good.
Okay, cool.
We've got people who are delivering raised crossings in their day jobs. That's brilliant.
Beautiful.
So we've got some people doing audits. We've got people upskilling. We've got project management, road safety, some state highway work in New Zealand, detailed design.
Bridge, let's do this. Everyone, let's do a very similar thematic analysis. If you are active in planning, bring your note to the top left. If you are in delivery and auditing and all the things related to development and delivery, bring it to the top right. If you're here for personal reasons, personal development, professional development, put it in the middle. And everything else you put in the bottom, so we understand what is happening here. Okay, it's very interesting balance. I mean, we have planners and we have a focus on development and delivery, and we have some people here for professional development, but this is fantastic. DTP recursive plans. Okay, fantastic. So then we have some very specific sort of purposes here for attending today from DTP today to work on. Great.
And hopefully what you learn in this whole course will help wherever you end up, because I'm sure if we came back in 5 years together, some people might be in the same roles and some people are bound to be in different ones.
Yeah, and that's a cross-pollination, isn't it? So it's great to have this knowledge and you move on, then you can talk to these people back. So great, thank you.
Lovely.
So I'll quickly go back to my presentation, and then we jump back to Miro for that exercise. So let me share my presentation. Okay, so all of us have heard potentially about the movement and place framework. I'm going to talk a little bit about movement and place framework here, and this one is I'm borrowing from the New Zealand approach to movement and place function, and it's very important for us to discuss that because we can have families of movement and place function, and these families are quite well established. We have city hubs, main streets, civic spaces, activity streets, local streets, and urban connectors and transit corridors for urban. And today we're going to talk about urban because that's where the majority of your pedestrian activities are. And by a city hub, we mean a very high density of residential tower blocks, potentially central business district or central activity districts. For example, in Victoria, we have ACBD1, but around 27 CADs or more, and we are developing them. Main streets are about when you have a diverse mixed use of low-rise apartment, special zones, and high-density commercial and retail. Civic spaces are about community-based facilities that bring people together, like a sport arena, concert venues, theaters. Activity streets are moderate density or commercial, and these are like, potentially covering the majority of urban areas because they're vast, and this is an area that is very interesting area. It creates lots of problem because it needs a lot of money for improvement. And also another thing is we have network planning sometimes issues in our towns, and this area is highly likely to be impacted by that because you have road arterials of 50, 60 Ks that go through industrial and the residential. You have public transport and the mixed use, and it's just really confusing and not really well designed, and changing them is difficult. So again, a very critical area. Local streets are, we're familiar with them, especially if you work for the local government. And urban connectors we're talking about 80 to 100 and 100 K environments in the cities, mainly freeways, highways. Now, let's jump back to the Miro and start a sort of movement and place exercise.
So back we are, and just underneath the other one. And you'll see that nice movement in place, colourful diagram.
I need to share. And I go to the next slide. Lovely. So this exercise is about understanding where we can strategically locate a raised pedestrian crossing. So what you can do, you can pick a symbol or just put an arrow or circle around an area on the movement and place framework that you can put a raised crossing. I have put the definitions also on the right-hand side for you. Yes, I agree with you. It blew someone's mind. I don't know why. You can maybe put in the chat room. I think what we're saying is quite straightforward. How did it blow your mind? Tell us. So maybe I repeat the exercise. So this is about us understanding which part of the movement and place function is more readily available and amenable for putting raised crossings. So as this emoji, you can put emojis where you think it's likely to put. Exactly like this case, we don't put raised crossing on transit corridors. So very similar to this.
Not until the revolution comes anyway, Hafiz?
Yes, this is.
Or else we erase them quite a lot, so then they're grade separated.
Yes. So let me offer a little bit more hint and guidance here, because what we think is the majority of movement and place framework allows itself to be raised for a raised crossing. Local streets are no-brainer, lower speed, lower traffic, more pedestrians, more vulnerable pedestrians. Civic spaces and city hubs, again, no-brainer. These are where you get the majority of place function happening. Main streets, again, similar. You have lots of crossing, lots of attractive origin destination on the other side of the arterial. Activity streets are an area that is quite critical to discuss. So we, based on the need and requirement, we can install raised crossing on activity streets. Doesn't matter if they're 60K or sometimes 70K. But if you have higher speed and wider roads, please remember one thing. Sometimes a poorly designed raised crossing or zebra crossing becomes a death trap. It actually makes drivers make mistakes because they don't understand what you're doing and they hit your pedestrians. So if you want and if you need to, and our cities sometimes ask for that because we put a bus stop here and a residential on the other side of the street, and we ask kids to cross 6 lanes of road. So if you need to, do a couple of things. Think if you can bring down the speed momentarily for that area. See if you can narrow the road, potentially narrow the road. And if like the environment is high risk, you can even think about potentially signalizing it, but that's another series of considerations. So, okay. Just I stop sharing. And this is our last exercise for today. So please bring all your love and attention to this exercise, because I'm pretty sure this is an exercise that you can really use to sort of consolidate some of the learnings today. So this exercise is about you thinking about what you already knew and what you heard today to really assess my work. So I'm going to put myself in the seat of a strategic planner and say, I'm a strategic planner that have no tools, no access to anything. I just have myself and my subject matter expertise. I want to go out in a suburb and strategically develop a race crossing program. And you're going to assess me and review me. And at the end of the exercise, tell me what I've done good, what I've done not really so good, and give me hints and suggestions to improve my work. In essence, the reason we're doing this exercise is three-pronged. You empathize with a thorough job that a working strategist needs to do, observe what I'm doing and help me to improve my work. Also, conceive how to develop a mass action pedestrian crossing in your area, because all the key steps are considered in this exercise. So let's get into it. Wet my throat with this beautiful saffron tea. Cool. So this exercise happens like I work in a local government in eastern side of Melbourne. We're around 10 to 12 kilometers away from the Melbourne CBD. This is in the Caulfield area, close to the Caulfield railway station, and also the Monash campus in Caulfield. So it has a race course nearby. We have schools, we have residential area, we have a shopping district, we have the Princess Highway going through the area, around like I think it's 80 here, and like a variety of different attractions and community centers and all that. So I really want to understand through my investigations of the area, what are the functions, demand, and risk in the area, and use them to come up with a proposal to my supervisor, who are you today? So what I did, I just went out to the area. I chose a primary school. I thought that, yeah, maybe I choose a route for a young kid and see how they can access the railway station. The trip is around 20 minutes. If you go fast, it can be 18 minutes. If you go not fast, it can be 22, 3 minutes. But again, so I chose this route that goes through local streets and then go through a shopping district, an arterial crossing a major intersection, then going through the Monash campus area and then access the railway station. So that was the route. And I thought that through going through this route, I would understand a little bit more about the environment. So what I did in terms of function, this is what I noticed. So the first part of my journey was through local streets, which was a sort of narrowish road. Still, I saw the gun barrel effect. We have car parks on the side and we have footpaths. Interestingly, we have footpaths on one side, not on the other side. This is actually really well-designed urban area in Melbourne, so it's a bit disheartening. What's disheartening for me not to see footpaths on both sides, or good footpaths on both sides. And then I went through a tram sort of route. This is an area that, we have shops, we have offices, we have banks, you see Macca's here, so you have that mixed rural environment. And then I entered, as a part of my journey, into an arterial road with higher speed. Still, you see lots of residential on both sides of the road, and speed is now turning from 40 and 50 to 60. I didn't show a picture of that intersection, but that intersection is massive. And then I entered the precinct of the university, and the first thing I noticed was how come a university precinct is posted at 60 kilometers per hour? Why do we need 60 for this environment? And then we have a bus lane here, which is great. That's give access to the railway station. And then this is the road by the side of the station. So it has a race crossing, and you see lots of activities, active travel. And this is Monash University campus here. So I had an understanding of the function and the type of streets in this area, potentially. Now, so then for my own reporting purposes, I sort of, gave them names. So I said, okay, the first bit around the station is potentially like a city hub. This one is a transition area. This is more like a connector. This is more activity street. This is more like a local street. So sort of, understanding where they sit in the movement and place function. Then I thought about demand. I said, what's happening with demand? How can I understand demand better? And I thought, okay, maybe I just try to understand what is around me in terms of land use and attraction. And this is what I understood. So I realized that there's a station, main railway station, and at least 2 lines, and I think a number of regional lines going through this station. There's a university, there's a shopping center here with Coles and Woolies, and we have restaurants across this road. And then in this transition area, you have a university, a campus, and then you have residential across this arterial road. And with this shopping strip, you have trams, shops, restaurants, residentials, community centers, banks, and all that. And in local, you have schools, churches, residentials, and community centers. So sort of, getting an understanding of potential demand for crossing and pedestrians. Then I downloaded data and information about pedestrian trauma, or pedestrian crashes for the last 5 years, and I mapped them against the map of, the situation I was assessing. And I see, okay, these are all current casualty crashes, and these are the distribution of them. So you see distribution concentration here, across this area. Also, one of the things I did, I used my own subject matter expertise. And even if I didn't see crashes in some of these areas, I saw these areas are more likely to be risky because of the arrangement, or because of potential human factor issues, or design issues, or exposure issues. So I have that sort of assessment as well. Then I had a look at the existing and available facilities. where are they? And they identified at least 4 race crossings in this area, which is great. It means that some work has been done in this area. Could we do more? Can we do more? Should we do more? Now, let's jump back to Menti and have a conversation about what could be done more. So let me stop sharing and jump to my Menti. Okay, I see people are already writing. That's great. Oh, it's from Bridge. The answer is a no. I only know to say I'm sorry in 5 languages.
Couple of people bringing up surveys. It's great. And cycling. Cycling and walking can help each other in these contexts, can't they, Hafiz, to get better outcomes, good investment.
And you add public transport as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating that when I devised this exercise, I obviously put intended gaps. And then people found gaps that I hadn't intended.
Yeah, there's always more to do. That's why transport's so interesting, right? Because it's related to so many other things.
Yes. So it's this part of the exercise is for both of us. I'm learning, you're learning, hopefully we all are learning. So, Bridge, I really would like to sort of, do a thematic analysis of improvement areas. Maybe you can help me here. How to dissect, how to sort of categorize.
So there's some kind of understanding the community kind of theme. I would put all the survey stuff, anything that mentions community or local people. Maybe we put all those in the top left this time.
So anything that has something to deal with understanding community, community groups, their needs, their demands, their perception goes to the top left of the screen, yes?
I would include knowledge from emergency services over there, anything that's coming out of all types of different communities.
Yeah.
Because communities can be spatially based or they can be based on the work that people do. Yeah. How about something around infrastructure? And so I would put cyclist counts, traffic.
Oh yeah,
facilities.
100% data.
Yeah.
I think maybe we
transport
have
data.
An area transport data, and anything transport data, you put it in the middle on the top. Middle top, anything about data.
Yeah, and there's a bit of overlap there because surveys are data, but they're also community knowledge. So we're seeing a bit of a continuum. And then there's one there, any schools, rest homes, etc. That's land use data really, isn't it? But maybe stuff about place further to the right. Exactly.
Or maybe we can call that like more transport planning sort of consideration. So the transport planning consideration, put it on the right top bottom. And everyone, if you could please move your comments to that area. So 3 areas on the top: community reactions, perceptions, understanding, top left. In the middle is data, mainly hardcore data, if you will, because some of the data are covered, and transport planning considerations on the top right, and then see what remains. Let's see what remains. Okay.
Someone's mentioned visibility. They're going to love module 4.
Yes.
Go into a lot of that kind of stuff.
So there is somebody typing up alternative routing, which is a fantastic observation. For example, like using the cyclist example, we have realized that sometimes putting cyclists off the main road on a side road, which is safer and quieter, is way better, as long as the detour factor is not increasing. And the detour factor is the factor that says, if you go from A to B and you draw a direct line between them, any diversion from that adds to the detour factor. And that detour factor should be around, I think, 1.2 to 1.4 for cyclists to feel comfortable to have a detour. Very similar to pedestrians, even less detour factor, because cycling is easier than walking.
And it depends on topography as well. If that detour is flatter or hillier than the alternative.
Yes. Oh, can I also add, Bridget, that sometimes the detour is nice because we take them away from the emissions of cars to a lakeside. People do that because there is a benefit.
That's right. That factor depends on how welcoming and nice and pleasant the detour is.
Exactly.
And the trip purpose as well, isn't it? Because if someone's out for a recreational ride, much more likely to seek out the nicer places than if they're trying to get somewhere in a hurry.
100%. Or for example, if you're a mother of a kid in one of those, like cargo bikes, you don't mind if you go maybe 2 minutes more for the safety, or or further, both cases, we see both.
Yeah. Cool.
So there are considerations about costs that coming out that I didn't really consider, or the cost limits, or the time limits, or there are other considerations. So maybe we sort of see like one thing that is missing here is safety and security concerns. I'm trying to see if there's any direct comment. There's safe system assessment, but one of the areas that I could have done maybe a better job is understanding safety and security better. You have mentioned community. That's great. I think comms and engagement very important. You talked about transport planning, which includes both demand and the type of network move and place. That's covered. That's fantastic. Bridget, any other improvement that you identified that I could have done?
I think there's a lot that's in between all of these comments, and some of that might depend on your surveys and your community engagement, because all of these investigations can be a light touch or a really deep and thorough investigation. They can be part of a bigger program of works with the council. Sometimes we can tack on information we're looking for as part of something else the council's doing, which can be really useful, cost effective, and also you're not over consulting with people. I was thinking about the question that I'll bring up in module 2, which is about trips not made. Where are people, like, where's that latent demand?
Wow. No, that's I love it. Thank you, Bridge. So I think keep thinking about this and keep bringing some of these learning into other modules. I just quickly go here, check. Okay, so the action learning number 6. Now, what I want you to do is just tell me what could have been done more. And I have put a number of options here for you to consider, but you could please tell me what other options or solutions you could add to your package, if you will. So this is, if I paraphrase my question here, is looking at race crossing as a part of a package. What is that package? So you can put like, you know, an emoji or something around or next to some of these solutions for us to know which one you like more, or you can add solutions, more solutions here. I love roundabouts with race crossing.
Yeah,
I
intersection treatments is a good observation.
Yeah.
And someone in the chat, Chris, has said reduce speed limits need supporting infrastructure. So it's chicken and egg depending on which approach we come to. And I think Prue talks a bit about that. You might come in with a speed management project and raised crossings support that, or you might decide that we need raised crossings or other infrastructure, and then speed management wraps around and supports that.
Yeah.
But all of us definitely agree that speed limits by themselves aren't usually that effective.
This is like, you know, one of those, like, you know, like some of our friends, like we have at least two schools of thoughts here. One group say the speed reduction does the job, or the big part of the job, why we wait for those infrastructure changes and not taking action based on the evidence we have. And there is a crew of us that we think that, you know, there is something that we can do. Actually, we are legally or ethically bound to do something if we do that. So the evaluation done on about 20 mile per hour areas in London actually suggested that, you know, some level of infrastructure intervention is required, but they were also cognizant to say that, you know, don't sort of, you know, wait forever to have the perfect infrastructure to do something. So, like, again, very case by case. So I quickly go through this because I'm very wary of time passing. I need to do one more exercise before we finish. Roundabout, I love them. Urban design, landscaping, and how I think that they can be done through potential traffic calming or some of these solutions as well, but also more crime. Oh, wow. I love this. The concept of CPTED, that's fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you. Traffic calming, physical, great. Lighting review and upgrade, again, something that you totally, and we're going to be discussing that as well. Line marking, similar to that, that will be discussed under the how. So just another reminder, we're going to be delving into the details of the design in the how module. So thank you for raising these comments. Yep. Beautiful. I think we have sort of agreement, but some of them are like getting more agreement and more support. Great.
One of the things that this makes me think is that it's important to share your knowledge with your colleagues, because a lot of these interventions rely on people that haven't been to this training or who aren't haven't got the same background as you do. So it's good to share this kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, totally, and use some of the material we have to just like introduce them, or reach out to us. Reach out, yeah. Okay, so I quickly go back to introduce Prue. Let me see if okay, we'll stop sharing here. Go back to right. Okay, I want to introduce Prue, and this is for the assignment that you will be doing as a part of your course, and you're reporting back to Prue in her WHERE module. This is the homework for WHERE module. So,
which is not the next one, it's in 1 week.
Yes, so you don't have no excuses. Please do it. And so the part one of the exercise is about identifying a typical walk in your neighborhood, for example, from your home to the shops or a public transport or your jogging route. Walk the route and consider key conflict points related to safety or accessibility and convenience. And it doesn't need to be very long. So It is very similar to some of the exercises we did today, or we ask you to ask your community about. So this is about that. So do that, please. Part 2 is about completing a survey in the learning management system. And shortly, Loretta will be giving you advice how to use the LMS. The survey will ask you some question about your work and about a short case study. It's designed to give you the opportunity to respond to a survey. And the third session will go through that, and Prue will be analyzing and using those examples. So in this course, we have tried to interact between different modules and we talk to each other. So it's very important for you to use some of the learnings today in doing this exercise to get the most benefit in the third module as well. So having said that, I want to thank you all and pass on the baton to Loretta and Bridge.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks, Hafez. You can all show your appreciation with the reaction buttons. I'm going to do a laughing emoji because it says joy on it. So joyful. And I'm going to hand back to Loretta, who's going to take you through some learning module stuff.
Thank you. Thank you, Hafez. That was great. And I loved everyone's interaction there and using the Miro boards. That was excellent. It's always, really good to see everyone engaged. Okay, so to the learning management system, as I mentioned earlier, you would have received an email with a link to the LMS. If for any reason you haven't received that email, sometimes it goes into your junk or your spam folders. So have a look in there. If not, please contact me. Easy done, we'll look into it for you. So once you get to, the link, once you've clicked on the link and you click in and click on login, and you come to, I guess, a dashboard. At the moment, I've got 6 courses in my particular profile. So you may have one, which would be the raised crossing training, or you may have other ones if you have done other training with Safe System Solutions. So we click on the course that for today, raised crossing, of course. And I know Hafez mentioned earlier, this is a 4-part series. So once we go through all, through down the list, you'll see that every module has its own topic and you'll be allocated, or you'll be able to view that particular module the day before normally. So once you're on here, you may have already done this, of course. So link to the webinar. Once again, we like to cover all bases. So it's in multiple areas, emails, on the LMS, as well as the course agenda, just in case you may forget the dates, etc. You've already logged onto the Miro board, so that's excellent. So that link is there as well. Some resources. So a lot of the presenters throughout the course will or may make reference to some resources. So have a look in this section here under resources, that you can download, and there's certain links and things that will take you, on a journey. So feel free to look through those. Module 1, why? So Hafez went through a lot of the references here already, but the actual activity is here. So under tasks, you do need to click on the local walking activity. So once you click on there, it takes you to this screen and it explains the part 1 and part 2 that Hafez did run through as well. And there's a link there. So obviously following the steps, pretty straightforward. And then once you click on this link, and that will take you to the survey that was referenced. So you just follow through that section there. I won't go through it, of course. This is due on Monday, the 16th of October. So basically, Tuesday, the 17th is module 3. So we need you to ensure that, you get that done before module 3. So that way, Prue, may make some reference to that activity. So that is pretty much, the local walking activity. And then, of course, Bridget will be running module 2, so the WHO, which will be on Thursday. So different presenters and moderating sort of throughout all sessions, but everything you need is in the LMS, and it's pretty straightforward if you just sort of work your way down the list. But that's pretty much, everything from me. Did Did I need to cover anything else, Hafez or Bridget?
No, that's excellent. I think we have been really pleased to see everybody and to see all of your great engagement. If you have any questions, bring them along to the next session. We're always going to have a presenter and a moderator and then support in the background. So if something occurs to you in the meantime, just feel free to bring it along, and we look forward to seeing you on Thursday.
Yeah, and thank you, Bridge and Loretta, for support. Fantastic. And thank you, everyone, for your enthusiasm and comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.